Team Accelerate have got a couple of new drivers added to their roster. Sadly, this comes off the back of the news that Jono Brown, who was the pre-season favourite, has had to pull out of the championship altogether this year. But one thing's for sure, his team haven't forgotten about him.
I'll be honest, Jono was probably, I think he's probably one of the nicest guys in the paddock. I think everybody's got a good word to say about Jono, whether it's in Accelerate or any other team. So really is he's a big miss to the team, and I'm gutted he's not in the awning.
Anthony said to me that Jono had a heart problem, which is unfortunate because Jono was going really well towards the end of last year, and it would have been good to have a strong teammate that I could sort of help push each other on. But I mean, Jono's car is sitting next door, and I hope he gets a better recovery and maybe hopefully get him back out at some point this year.
For the final race, it is a reverse grid of the top 8 across both classes and a standing start. Now, due to the weather taking a little bit of a turn for the worse, there's been a few last-minute tyre changes, but the engines are revving, so let's go racing.
Well, the good news is the rain stopped falling. The bad news is that it is still very, very treacherous. So it's Henry Dupree who takes advantage of the reverse grid to share the front row with Mark Stewart, then Hamish Brandon and Chris Knox on row 2. In the Cooper class, Simon Walton takes pole from Mark Wakefield, and then Gideon Cresswell and Josh Gollim. So we are ready for the off here for the final time this weekend at Donington Park, and away we go. It's a brilliant start from Mark Stewart. Also well away is Hamish Brandon, and Henry Dupree rather being swamped by those around. Surprisingly, as it's a real art to get these cars off the line in such treacherous conditions as they turn through Redgate for the first time. It's the blue car, Lawrence Davey, finding traction to the outside line where it's maybe just a little bit grippier, as it packed all cleanly through with no rotations. Then they plunge downhill, and with the exception of Mark Stewart with absolutely zero visibility, in car with Henry Dupree, and around he goes, and he takes the polystyrene marker with him, has a lurid spin down the Craner curves. Don't roll back onto the track, he stops just at the edge of the circuit. Hopefully he'll recover from there. So it is Stewart who leads the way. Second place, it's the similar black car of Chris Knox. Then Lawrence Davey, who is going to challenge around the outside of the Knox as they come out of McLean's on towards Coppice. Hamish Brandon in 4th as they turn into Coppice in car with Chris Knox, who is right up behind Stewart as well, gets sideways and taps Lawrence Davey as a consequence, as he's going to lose the place to Hamish Brandon. Should hold on to 3rd though, nothing malicious in that whatsoever. Knox, you could just see, went a little bit sideways and had no space to recover. So it's now the turn of Hamish Brandon to challenge Mark Stewart as the leading group of cars, all bunching up through the Robert chicane and sprinting on to complete the first lap of the race. So it's the black machine of Stewart, then the red car of Hamish Brandon, then the black car of Knox, black and yellow machine of Luke Cordell. Going back a couple of years, don't forget Knox and Cordell had such a ferocious fight for the title. And Chris Knox takes 2 cars in one move into Redgate. Absolutely brilliant manoeuvre that from Chris Knox. It's further behind, Kevin O'Connor slides through the grass. And Redgate corner is so tight as well. Chris Knox judged that absolutely to perfection. He now leads the way. Luke Cordell followed through in these wheel tracks. He jumps to 2nd. Hamish Brandon in 3rd. Up to 4th has come Chris Russell. There's Chris in the black car with the turquoise stripe. Mark Stewart was rather the victim in all of that. And now that Knox is through, he's beginning to pull clear. And maybe we've had a mistake there from Cordell, because he's lost out to both Brandon and Russell on the run from the old hairpin through Schwantz onto McLean's. And will that give Chris Knox possibly a decisive advantage into proceedings here? Because these cars being so evenly matched, if you can make a gap, it's often quite hard for your rivals to chase it down. What about the Cooper class? Matt Wakefield and Ricky Page, they are busy doing battle, trying to get themselves into a podium position. It's Shane Stoney, surprisingly, who is leading the way. Well, the fight for 2nd through Roberts. Still Hamish Brandon from Chris Russell and Luke Cordell. There is our race leader, Chris Knox. He's not that far clear, only about a 2nd or so, but in the Power Max Mini Challenge, that is almost an eternity. He's got 4 car lengths worth an advantage into Redgate. Ricky Page, meanwhile, continuing his progress up through the order. That's William Phillips and Chris Stoney who are surrounding him. And in fact, Phillips moves ahead of Ricky Page. as the Cooper class string out down the start and finish straight. Immediately though, Phillips defending from Page and Chris Stoney, and it's Stoney in fact following through. Ricky Page losing another place, perhaps enjoying these wet conditions as much as the dry weather. Luke Cordell and Chris Russell have both been able to elevate themselves up ahead of Hamish Brandon, who is now beginning to slip into the clutches of Simon Quinn as they accelerate out of Roberts, and the track conditions just marginally improving. It's leading the way. Cordell then up into second, and I wouldn't say it's a dry line, but there is a distinct racing line. It's just beginning to emerge, and Hamish Brandon doesn't find it on the way into Redgate. He may get some traction though through the marbles on the outside, so he's able to hold off the efforts of Simon Quinn. A pair of them both being chased as well by the recovering Lawrence Davey. Down through the Craner curves, in car with Simon Quinn, who goes sideways. The car snaps away under braking as he slithers across the track. Somehow knocked his front spoiler askew in all of that as well. While Ricky Page and Chris Stoney still doing battle in the Cooper class. That's being led by Shane Stoney from Gideon Cresswell and Josh Gollin. Ricky Page looks to the outside of Stoney as they arrive into Redgate, no way through there. And they are about to be caught by the race leader Chris Knox, who is scything his way through this Cooper class battle. Andrew Norman on the next cars that he is about to elevate himself clear of, which he does as he accelerates down through Hollywood into the Craner curves. And this has been a very fine performance from Chris Knox. This ruthlessness through the traffic, he's able to put 4 of the Cooper class cars between himself and his principal pursuer, Luke Cordell. So thus far this weekend it's been the 2 wins for Luke Cordell. He wants to make it the clean sweep. Chris Knox though would like to notch up his first victory of 2014, and at the moment it is looking very strong, this for Knox. Still got a way to go though, as they climb out of McLean's into Coppice, a tricky corner Coppice, because you can't see the corner until you've essentially turned into it. You've really got to rely on your experience to get the braking point just right. So there you can see the gap between Knox and Cordell. In third place still, it's Chris Russell. It's now Russell's turn to try and push through the traffic as he sets about getting a little bit of ground on Luke Cordell. It's Adrian Norton, he's going to put the lap of into Roberts. That's quite late on the brakes into Roberts there for Chris Russell. He's pushing very hard. Oh, a little bit too hard. Off he goes into the gravel trap, and he comes to a halt right at the edge of the circuit. I just wonder whether that may give us an interruption to proceedings, because anybody else who goes off next to Roberts would come into contact with Chris Russell in fairly short order, unfortunately. It's continuing nonetheless. In particular, William Phillips and Mark Wakefield having a super scrap in the Cooper class. A pair of them just ahead of Peter Diamond, and no surprise, the red flag does come out and brings a premature end to a very entertaining race. Victory then for Chris Knox from Luke Cordell. Hamish Brandon completes the podium ahead of Lawrence Davey. In the Cooper class, Shane Stoney once more victorious from Gideon Cresswell and Josh Gollin, a fine 4th for Grace Williams. It's been a tough weekend's racing in the Power Max Mini Challenge. Now it's time to celebrate with some champagne on the Donington Park rostrum.
You actually seem to get a really decent gap early on as well.
Yeah, that was the whole plan, just get my head down, get away from the guys, let them tussle it at the back, and it gave me enough room so that when I came up to the club cars, that I had a sort of as much of a cushion as possible.
I've had a few problems over the weekend, particularly Friday, but you know it's been really good. We've finally got the car working in the wet, which is good.
Thanks very much.
Presentation time for Sunoco driver of the weekend. It's Neil Newstead in the JCW class, and Ricky Page claiming the honours from the Cooper class runners. So 3 races down, and here are the standings for the JCW runners, with Luke Cordell leading the way from Lawrence Davey. And in the Cooper class, it's Shane Stoney from Gideon Cresswell and Josh Gollin.
We're going to be at Brands Hatch in a few weeks' time, so I hope you can join us there. It'll be the mini festival. Until then, don't forget you can keep up to date with everything that's going on with the mini challenge by following us on Twitter, looking at the Facebook page, and also, of course, the website. But for now, from Donington, it's goodbye.